that. So,
Right.
Okay. So I am here with Dr. Josh Iha from Midwest Specialty Acupuncture, and I asked Josh to sit down with me for a few minutes and talk about the energy work that he does, and of course he also provides acupuncture, so I just wanted him to be able to explain a little bit about energy work, and that's something that I've done with him, and I've referred a handful of clients to him, and I really like the way he provides his service. And so Josh, if you don't mind telling us just a little bit about your background and a little bit about what you do in the office, that would be great.
Yes. Hi, Jen. And hello, my name is Dr. Josh Iha, and I'm a doctor of acupuncture and oriental medicine. I was trained out in San Diego. It's a 4-year post-grad program to become a licensed acupuncturist, and then there's additional training for the doctorate. So that's the basic training that anybody with an LAC after their name should have. I went on, after learning this, into energy medicine that specifically deals with people's emotional states. What I found is that that's a huge source of disease. And the reason for that is that the emotions that we feel, whether they're based on what's going on right now or what has gone on in the past, find their place within our bodies and stay there. They can change the frequency of movement chemically, like within the bloodstream, electrically, like within the nervous system, and delay or change metabolism, removal of toxins, almost any disease process. So the acupuncture and the Chinese meridian therapy that I do through acupuncture does a lot of balancing on the conscious and level of energy that the person experiences consciously at that time. In other words, everything of all the complexity of who you are, the acupuncture meridians carry that information to every different organ in the system, through the mind, and then through the energy body, through the emotional body, through the spiritual body. And what I've been doing in the last 5 years or so is specifically going underneath that and finding those core emotions that have been blocking our system subconsciously. And the way that I do it energetically is to connect with the frequency of that emotion and the age at which it came. And once we get that information, the person can usually, although it's not necessary, come up with that experience that created that emotion. And once that's brought to the attention of the body's ready to be done with it, especially if it's in terms of this is causing me disease or causing me suffering. We don't need this defense mechanism anymore, and we're not threatened. And in the clinic room here, we're not threatened. So we start releasing this stuff gently, and we bypass the mind and the mind's trickery, so we can be very efficient in doing it in a very short amount of time.
And so what do you find when people come in and see you? So I came in and saw Josh. One of the things I like to do in my practice is make sure that I try to engage as much as I can in the resources that I want to encourage a client to go use, so that I know who you are and how it works, so that I can explain that to my clients. And so I came in and I just wanted clarity, and of course I got a lot more out of my practice time with you here than that, but that was kind of why I came. And so it was the first time I'd done energy work, and I joke with Josh about my idea coming in to see him was beaded curtains and incense and a guy who maybe only wore white. I don't know, and like bearded. I don't know what I had this anticipation, but I think it sounds a little bit unique and different to people to go access a service like this, and it was the first time even I did it. And so I wanted to kind of take a little bit of the mystique out of it. It is an amazing experience, but kind of, I came in for clarity. What do you find people come in for, so that you can give these guys an idea of, why might you come and see me, and how that would be helpful to them?
I think that's a very good question. I see a lot of people from referrals, and oftentimes those referrals are based on positive experiences that people have had with me. I see a lot of families. Children don't receive acupuncture. They'll just get the energy work, so it's a way for me to work with younger children. Even fetuses, or those before we're born, do have energy signatures within the body, and those can be cleared. I think it's important to find somebody with an education background in healthcare, somebody that has done their due diligence in working with the body on the biological level as well as energy medicine. And then I think it's important to find somebody that your personalities match, where you feel like you trust them. There is a lot more I can do with people that are open. And that's not to say that people don't come in here with maybe very little idea of what I do, and based on their personality maybe are a little more closed off. But once we start unraveling some of this stuff and opening it up, the body can be open in and of itself, if that makes sense. Biologically, we start to recognize very quickly that we feel more at ease. What I tell people is that what I want to achieve is an easygoingness. Easygoingness is an openness of the heart. It means we're flexible and adaptable. It means we trust that every situation coming across our plate is for our best good. Whether on the surface it seems like it's suffering or setting us back from our dreams, or somehow a blockage or obstruction. All of these things are judgments, and those judgments can create emotions. So as we start to shift through the judgments and that layer of emotional baggage that we have, what we start to recognize in our mind is that it's really not about fulfilling our defense mechanisms' need for everything to be perfect. What it means is that we can be open to whatever comes. It's just a shift of context, but it's a very important one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I was going to say, I know a friend of mine came and saw you after having some pretty significant medical issues, and she just hadn't gotten what she needed to get, which I'm sure it's a very medical term when I say that, but she hadn't gotten the improvement, the progress that she felt like she really needed. And so it was interesting to talk to her, and she was actually the friend who referred me to Josh. And she said this worked. Doing this kind of work for her actually helped alleviate symptoms that she'd had for years, and had gone to her doctor. She'd done all the due diligence and taken care of those needs, and still wasn't feeling like she was getting what she needed, and so found relief coming and doing this energy work, which was incredible to hear. And so, one is people might come if I've sent people that have depression, anxiety to you, some car accidents, of course, so there's some maybe trauma components. Are there other things that you would say would be beneficial, or another issue or two that might be good for people to come in and see you for?
I see a lot of people for digestive disorders, sleep disorders, menstrual issues, and fertility issues. I see kids for allergies and intolerances. That's becoming a very common thing these days. And then any and all types of pain. And that's more from an acupuncture perspective, but that's what most acupuncturists, unless they really specifically specialize in something else, see a lot of people for. And I do have special training in that, so that's kind of another whole wing of my practice.
Mm-hmm. And so, what about someone with addiction issues, maybe eating disordered issues? If people struggle with weight loss, weight gain, just eating behaviors, are there things like that as well that you feel like you end up seeing in your office?
Yeah, absolutely. I think addiction has a lot to do with the heart and our desire to connect. I think that addictions are made worse by our internal threat level. That light starts going off as soon as we don't have that thing. And our life becomes wrapped around getting and keeping that thing, whatever that addiction is. So I think our relationships to ourselves in terms of judgment, these associations and emotions are important. Clearing those out so that we don't have this source, this emptiness that's always trying to be filled or feeding on this thing. And that's true for food addictions, but it's also true for almost any addiction where it's an emptiness, almost a codependence with this thing where you decide to put your life aside for this thing and then expect that thing to fulfill every satisfaction that your spirit requires. And obviously our what I call our contracts with heaven don't really allow that. We're set to do a lot more, experience a lot more, and have more breadth of experience on this planet than just interacting with that one thing. Acupuncture in and of itself does have protocols that relax and calm the body, especially for those first maybe 3 or 7 days of clearing. I see that with cigarettes most specifically. That's a common thing that I treat. And then with the energy work, going in and clearing up those that emotional baggage so that things can be realigned without having to overcome these huge obstacles, like from childhood, or maybe a relationship that didn't work out, maybe loss. But also, strangely, it can come from some inherited things we get from our parents, other preconception stuff. We can absorb things from mom in the uterus. So the complexity by which we get these things is pretty enormous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. That's an interesting component of treatment. Let me tell you, that's a little bit like Toad's Wild Ride. Until you've done it a little bit, it's really interesting to hear that component of it. So tell me, if you can, a little bit about what would somebody expect from a session. So I've been with you, but I think if you can talk people through how do sessions work so that they kind of know what to expect when they walk in the room. What will a session with you be like if they were going to do some energy work?
Well, first we'll talk. I want to know what your goals are and where you're at. And then there's an option to either combine that with Chinese medicine, and I do that for people that have also have some physical symptoms or biological symptoms. But if we're just dealing with emotional stuff or big picture stuff, like having trouble finding a soulmate or a life partner, trouble finding a job, trouble figuring out where you want to live, those kind of bigger questions, things that don't involve the physical thing, we'll have a short kind of conference where I get to know you, you get to know me, and then we'll both set our goals down on paper. I think it's very important to be specific in our intentions. And once we do that, then I am drawn intuitively into where we need to go and start clearing emotions in that space. And there's a lot of symbolism based on the chakra system and the meridian system, as well as other traditions, where we actually hold this stuff and why. But once we're in that area, we just start to clear and clear and clear. And it takes about a half hour to do a full emotional session. After that time, the body might feel a little tired, almost like having a session with Jen probably, where things from the inside come up and they require a little bit of experience sometimes. So our bodies need to kind of reset. We need to let this stuff move through and then nurture things back into alignment. So about a half hour is what it takes. And I go emotion by emotion, clearing that emotion from that age, connected to an experience, and clear until the body says that's enough, or the body says that's all in that area, which means we've fully cleared it, purified that area.
Mm-hmm. And I have found, I can completely see what Josh is saying about some people leaving here feeling kind of a little bit run down, tired, maybe a little bit. I actually feel leaving lighter. So that's interesting. I can see where, I think interesting that it could be either way. You might come in and end up feeling really great. I love when I come in. It's kind of like being renewed in my energy bucket. I've talked a lot with you guys about energy currency. My energy currency bucket feels like all filled up again. So I kind of, by the time I come to see Josh once a month, I'm starting to feel like I want to come back in. Like, I don't know what that is. Maybe he has an answer for that, but I really look forward to it, and I enjoy it, and I feel great when I come. So I think it probably depends on the depth of what you're working on and where you are physically anyway, but it's just great to kind of hear about kind of like, okay, what might your experience look like? So what else can I tell them? Oh, and you have a tool. I just want to talk about this. So I come in and I actually sit right in this chair that you see right here. So I'm real concrete. So a lot of my clients will ask me, like, what's the experience feel like? So I walk in the room, sit down. I know Josh now, so we just get right to work. He has a computer. He's talking to me. What's the tool that you use? Can you tell? Because I always describe it about spikes, and I'm like, that's probably not the right way because that sounds kind of scary.
Find it.
Yeah, do you have one in here? So there's just this tool that Josh uses, and I think my question was, when I come in to sit with him to do this kind of energy work, what kind of tools will he use? Do I need to lay on a table? Am I sitting up? How does this work? And I've been to acupuncture before, so I wasn't exactly sure what to expect. And instead, Josh has a tool that he uses. It doesn't hurt. That's why I said calling it spikes is not that, like, that sounds like medieval torture. It's not. And so tell a little bit about what is this tool and how does it work so people kind of get what that is.
So this is a special magnet, and that's all it is a magnet. It's made by a company in Korea. And I roll it along the spine, and because the heart is a large electromagnetic battery, it can reset the heart, and the heart is what processes emotion. So through the heart, we can unlock a lot of this stuff, and it's very simple. I just go right down the back, a number of times depending on what we're clearing.
Yeah.
And that's it.
That's
So when little kids come in, I let them hold this, and they love to play with it because it looks like a toy, and then they love the way it feels going down their back. And so they really love coming in. Kids are also very intuitive. So like Jen was saying, she's also very intuitive. They recognize the increase in frequency that they get after they come in. Emotions are very low energy, which is why we try to remove ourselves from them, deny, suppress, repress, project them. When we remove the low frequencies, what's left is our high frequency, our spirit, our inspiration. So kids and I'd say the majority of people have that lightness as they leave.
I think it's great. And so do you have any standard, so kind of we talked about walking in the office, what to expect, how does the session work? You said they're about half an hour. How long do you tend to see people? Just out of curiosity, and I know that this is going to vary widely, right? So I mean, that's kind of an unfair question. I don't mean to like lob this big gigantic question at you, but can you speak at all to what people might expect? Like, I want to keep coming. So for me, I chose, you were like, well, you've done some work and things are pretty good, and so you wouldn't have to come back, but I wanted to because I wanted to keep making sure I was maintaining that progress and continuing to grow. What would you say about how long people might end up coming into? Sorry.
It's okay.
How long people might be coming in to see you? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, people will normally see me from anywhere from 3 visits to somebody that's interested in continuing their journey with me, is how I'd put it. Where I'd see them maybe every month or 6 weeks or quarterly, just to kind of be their rudder, help kind of realign things so that they're continuing to go in the right direction, maybe clear some stuff that come up in the meantime, as long as it's not a tragedy. Those 3 visits we can do for very specific nature. Oftentimes early on in the treatment process, I do a very special process, what's known as clearing the heart wall. There's a group of emotions that we use to barricade ourselves in when we feel threatened. And we do that to protect ourselves. It's our ego trying to protect ourselves. But what it also does is keep us from being able to get outside of ourselves as well. So we can feel isolated. Even being around loved ones, we can feel isolated, especially with our partner on some levels. We might have lived with them for many years, but we feel isolated from them. Our heart is just, no matter how hard we try, just doesn't seem to be fully connecting to that person. This is all due to the heart wall. The heart wall is a group of emotions that are created by the subconscious into a wall to block our wall or block our hearts from the outside world, which we on some level feel like is a cold, cruel world. On the other side, nothing comes into our field that we don't ask for, that isn't in our best interest, and we can trust that that we're being led through this life, that we're not alone, that we're not disconnected, that we're not isolated. So as we recognize that energetically, the heart wall starts clearing through the process. And I've found that of all the things that I do, that creates the most substantial difference in the entirety of our energy field, which is why I got into doing this aspect of the medicine in the first place.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I like I said, I've had just really good experience, and I am a big fan of taking away some of the mystery around treatments, because like I had that terrible, that's just, it's too bad that I think we get ideas about what kind of work looks like. And so I think making that not mysterious and like letting them see your face and see this office and how it works, and letting you guys see the tools and talking with Josh about what he's doing, why he's doing it, and the benefits you might get is really important. Is there anything else you feel like is kind of, I just want to make sure we touch all of the bases that you think are important for people to know about coming in and doing the work? Is there anything that we've missed?
The question I get asked a lot is, what can I do myself to do this kind of work? And that's a huge question that I can't just answer quickly, but Jen is working on some programs and I'm working on some programs so that we can teach you some tools that you can use to deliver this kind of cleaning to yourself energetically. Some of these are in terms of meditation. Some of these are in terms of working specifically in a certain way with workbooks, or specifically working through some stuff with whatever the objects of our difficulty is, whatever our enemies are. transforming those into real positive learning situations that are there for our growth and our own benefit, which ultimately is the case. So a lot of exciting stuff come up.
Yeah.
And I think what's important isn't finding the absolute perfect thing, but just diving in and seeing what it feels like to start doing some of this stuff. A lot of the training in meditation, opening up awareness, consciousness, those kinds of things don't cost a lot of money. They just require some diligence early on and some faith that, hey, what I'm doing is worth it. And I can tell you as a practitioner, and I'm sure Jen can tell you as a practitioner, that it is well worth it. Absolutely. You will recognize changes on every level. And one teacher told me very early on, it's what you don't know that is blocking you the most. And these things are set up really to uncover those things.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've, I know Josh had recommended some reading to me. I've done meditation. I think just personal development on the whole, but I mean, being asked questions to kind of engage your mind outside of the time you're working on something with someone. I come from a therapy background, so it's been really fun for me to end up doing collaborative work with other practitioners. And you guys know that my gist is always that I want you guys to access all of those resources and use them together, because what we find is that you will touch on something a little bit different than I will touch on something a little bit different than someone's holistic practitioner or somebody else, yoga, meditation. You'll take a little bit of something away from all of those, and it combines for this whole that I think just really helps people cope and manage their lives more effectively no matter what. So maybe somebody's coming in and they're in a pretty great place, maybe you're in a really great place and you just want to elevate yourself, or maybe you're coming in and you've had some significant health issues, mental health issues, and so it's all of those kind of parts that make a whole that I think are really important. So that's kind of my enjoyment, and it's why I asked Josh to join us today to explain a little bit about what he does. It's awesome stuff. So I want to thank you for taking time for hanging out with me and sharing this, so that anybody who's interested can kind of learn a little bit about energy, take the mystique out of that. And thank you so much for taking time today.
Absolutely. Yes, you're welcome.